Okay, so let's open this my sheet. Okay, so in the last session, right on the Friday, basically we discussed about cascading approval process, wherein which we have seen that there are two ways that we can basically give the multiple approvals to the multiple people. One is a reporting structure, but but the reporting structure means like it will only go to the specific people whom you report to. For example, if you're finance department, then your finance department, your manager, finance manager, then senior finance manager, and then same department, whomever you report to, it will go. But whereas so there are some scenarios, right? I mean, in which you have, let's say, made some report, and that report has to be approved by all the department managers or head basically. So in that case, if something is not in your in the path of your hierarchical structure. So in that case, your authority matrix comes into the picture. And then for the authority matrix, we have seen that we have to build one decision table. All right. So here we go. So now if we go here, so this is, and for this one, I have not used that assignment shape. We have used this approve reject, Pega's out of the box approve reject. So there itself, you will see that, reporting structure and authority matrix. And then the decision table, if I'll open it. So another important thing which you have to, if you have to remember is, whenever you are creating a decision table for authority matrix, you have to go to the results tab and you have to check this box, evaluate all rows, so that you get all the approval managers. For example, depending upon your condition, now if I'll say, okay, if it's greater than 100, then only 2 level approval is needed. And then if it's greater than 1,000, then 4 level of approval is needed. So then depending upon that, Pega will append this all the approvals inside this page list. So we have created this page list, and inside this property, the Pega will store that operator ID. So now, for example, if you run it, and now that I've given a condition here that when the loan amount is equals to 100, then it shall all that, like LA manager, senior manager, director, and CEO, that all four of them needs to approve my loan applications on all. Let's say if I quickly run it. So here now I'll submit this. And now here, what I'll do is I'll just enter the amount as 100, because that is what the condition that we have given in the decision table. And this is just a dummy review loan details that we have added it. Now, this is a first level approval. So you can see here, it is LA manager. So now when the first level of manager approves my request, it will go to the senior manager, and then the senior manager will approve the request. Then it will go to the director, and that is what we have mentioned, right, in the decision table. So if you hear now my request went to director, and then the director, once he goes and once they approve it, then we have this CEO. That is what we mentioned in the last one. So once the CEO opens this and CEO approves it, that's it. My loan application will get accepted. And here you can see that email too, and the status that that normally we are setting it to resolve completed, like that. So that is what we have seen in the last sessions. So, and now today, I mean, for example, by mistake, if you've created something, for example, now if I created some temp property, and then if we have, let's say I've created, let's say for a text, I've just changed it and saved it. That's it. You have no other option to change it back to integer, decimal, or link, anything else. I mean, what that you have only one option, just delete this, and then just create a new property as again as a temp, and that's it. And that's the only thing basically. So that's one of the thing which we have it in Pega. There's no option basically. Yes, yeah, we can do that. For example, I mean, if I understood the question, so what you want to say is, for example, this loan type, for example, yeah, let's say for example this is a country list, and now if I select India, then only that India state should populate, right? I mean the next one, I mean the state.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that is also possible. So now that I'm going to cover in that future topic, where in which I'll also cover that, how this things, how these drop downs also, we can make it dynamic. So now once we go to that topic, then we'll cover that, once how to basically we can do that. So that will cover it in a future session. So I don't want to confuse you now, I don't want to touch that problem. No. In one grid or one table, you have only option of specifying either a table, either a page group or either the page list. So in this family details, if I have created so it's not possible basically. So another thing is like we have one more grid like hierarchical, like so let's say for example I have to show a grid. Sorry, I have to show like let's say here itself. So let's say for example I have to show a grid. So then and then I have to show, for example, create something like this, like where IT department. So now if I click like all the departments that I have to display, IT department, and then IT total employees, and then like some other columns too. And then if I'll expand the IT columns, IT that row, then only IT related options, only IT related employees should populate. And then whereas the same HR department and HR department, when who is the head of HR department, and then when this HR department has been found, or like role of HR department something. And then if I expand that HR, like that's something we want that, then we have something called as hierarchical table, like that. So here, so in this one we can do that. Okay, and the best way and to learn about the sections too, like you can go like in Pega, like Pega has given some UI gallery, UI elements. So this is the best thing like to learn about sections and controls. So if you go here, so if I'll again show you like how to go there. So all that you need to do is configure, and then the user interface and gallery and the UI elements. So you can see that like the like Pega will tell you like how to build this kind of a structure like that. For example, I was talking about hierarchical tables, right? So if you click on that, the Pega will tell you, okay, like how that, for example, this one employee name, right? So this is the employee details. And now if I'll expand this, I can see like okay, these are the Jake and Germany and Josh, like are working under this guy, like this ability. And then Coral, like in the similar way, like only one guy, Jacob, is working under him, and then that is his detail. So something, if you want to build like this, in that case you can go to the hierarchical table. And if you want to know, okay, how Pega has built it, or how that you can build it, so you can see here view design time configuration. So if you click on that, the Pega will tell you like on how the Pega has designed it, like which layout they have used, and inside that layout which property they have used. I mean, how they have referred this employee property and all that stuff. So all these things like, I mean, I know if you debug, I mean, if you see that, like, you'll easily be able to learn like, more on things. So this is called UI gallery that, which we say. So like that. Okay, so now today we'll talk about one more thing. For example, now that what we are doing here, like so already there is a case open. So what are we doing here is now I'm entering all the details and everything, right? Date of birth and all the stuff. So now no, what my requirement is, let's say this is not my date of birth, right? We are pre-populating today's date, but my requirement is that, I mean, whenever, let's say if I'll put my correct date of birth, correct, let's say my date of birth is 2020 February, kind of 4th February 2010, like that. So automatically the age, this field, right? I mean, I have made it to read only. So automatically should calculate as, let's say 2020, that's like what, like 2023 minus 2010, like 13 years. So it should populate as a 13 years or 13, or then again, let's say if I'll put the year as something else, like for example, this is the year, and then it should populate as like whatever, 30 years, 40 years, 46, 47, 65, whatever. This age one, like I should not ask user to fill this age, because I want my system should be smart enough that as soon as the user enters his or her date of birth, I mean, my system should calculate the age automatically. Okay, so this is the one requirement that I have. And the another requirement that I have is, let's say the user is saying that yes, I mean, that user has taken existing loan, I mean, already I have it. So now if I'll say, okay, I have education loan, and the loan amount is 20,000, so 2 lakhs or something, and EMI I'm paying 5,000 rupees per month, and this EMI per year, right, should calculate automatically. For example, per year means like 12 in 1 year we have 12 months. So 12 into 5, I mean, it's 60,000. So 60,000 it should populate, I mean, it should should calculate automatically, like that. And like, let's say again, I'm taking it like, I'm saying personal loan, and the personal loan is, let's say again, like, I've taken it for 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs, and then I'm hearing paying 1,000 rupees, let's say, like 1,000 rupees I'm paying the EMI per month, and it should calculate as 12,000 rupees, and like that. So it's okay. So these are the two requirements that I have it. So one, like so one way that we can do is, we can do it like we can do it, we can do it with the help of a data transform. And okay, on change of this field, we can refresh the section and we can call a data transform and we can do that age, we can calculate it. And the another way we have is declare expression, so we have like, declarative rules that we have. Declare rules. Okay, so declare or declarative rules or something like that. So we have it. So in the select first one, the decisions, we have divided 4 parts, right? In the similar way, declarative rules also we have like we have declare expression. So then we have declare constraint. So we'll talk today only about declare expression, and then we have declare trigger, declare declare index. Okay, so these are the 5 rules that we have it. And then, okay, so of course we'll not see today, like, we'll talk only about declare expression. So this is basically, this is used to calculate any expression. Any expression, like, like just now I've given one example as age, like, like age, then or total amount, like total amount or total, like that. So, so etc. There are many things, like, depending upon your requirement, you can choose that. So today we'll see it like, how can we do that. So now we'll go, now we are in screen. So now simply one way that you can create a declare expression, there one, like, you can directly do a right click, create, and then decision, and then you can go ahead, create a declare expression. Okay, and the another way is to create a declare expression is just open that property where that property is, and then do a right click, and then you can say here define or define expression. So if you click on the define expression, so the, automatically the Pega will take that field as like the target property as age, and that's it, like, and Pega will fill all other details automatically. And here you can see that. So here the Pega fills this, applies, I mean, the class name and the rule set and the rules version, but the target property we have to fill our by our own. Okay, so depending upon your suitability, you can just choose any of the method, like, but I suggest, like, just better to, instead of going directly from class and all those things, just, just go to the property where the class, the property is, and just do a right click and just create define expression. That's it, like, you can see that automatically the Pega will fill this and this column automatically. Okay, so this page context will see it soon, like, what it is. Okay, so and then this age, like, you just say continue and, sorry, create and open. So here you can see that, like, the build and expression. So, and then the age, automatically the Pega has filled it. Okay, and now, so this is here, we can call either this value, we can calculate it with the help of decision tree, decision table, or a map value. So now we know what these rules are. Okay, or else we can directly calculate this expression. So we have, if you click on this gear icon, so you can just browse, or you can get functions from all the functions. So one of the functions which I've already have listed here is, like, we have the function called as date time difference. Okay, date time difference means, like, it will calculate 2 dates basically, like, 1 day, 2 date. For example, if a leave application, right, if you notice in your leave application, like, whenever you apply leave, if you enter from and to date, a total leaves gets calculated automatically. So if that's the same thing, if you want to do like, if you want to do it in Pega with the help of this function, so you have to use this function, date time difference. That means you're differentiating 2 dates, not numbers, basically, right? So date time differences, and which date that you want to differentiate, date of birth. I mean, right, in our case is our date of birth that we want to differentiate, and then and that current date. So we know it, right? I mean, this is a function current date time, which will give you the today's date. I mean, it will populate the today's date. So this date minus this date minus this date, it will give you, and then this is, I have given y, and the reason I am given y is, that means because I want the total difference days in years, basically, not in days or something like that. But let's say if you want to calculate the difference in it's a leave application, right? In the leave application, like, we calculate the differentiation in the days, right? I mean, let's say from, I want to say that, okay, I want to take leave from 27 to 28. That means 2 days I want to leave. So, in that case, it will be capital D. Normally we give, capital D or small d, something like that. So that the Pega can understand it. Like, okay, these differentiation, the difference between this and this, I mean, I have to calculate in the year, I mean, year or date or month or seconds or something, like that. So that is it. And then this function, you can see here, this function, I'm again calculating, I'm keeping it another function as a round. Round means, like, it will, like, for example, if the age is calculated as 6.7 or 7.8, something like that. So I want to differentiate. I want to put the round figure, like, if it's 8.9. So if, let's put the age as 9 years, basically. Okay, so now and now if the same function, if you want to use it, so what you can do is you can just go here and just browse it and search for that date time difference, search for it. Okay, and here just, add it, and then here you can give whatever that value that you have, like, for example, here is what, okay, date of birth, and then comma, and then comma, whatever the expression, like, current date time that you can give here. And now if you don't understand, okay, what parameters to put and all these things, if you just keep a cursor on it, you will get, like, an exact explanation of this function, like, what this function is and what are things that you need to specify. And even if you're not clear about or reading this, so simply what you can do is copy this function and search it. So this is a rule search, something. And then you can see the function, just open it. And then you can see that, okay, this function accepts three parameters. One is the begin date and end date. And then precision. Precision means, like, year, date. So if you just go to the last one, so the Pega will tell you that, you can give Y, M, D, H, like H means hours, minutes, seconds, like, what differentiation basically do you want. And you can see here double. That means this function will basically give you, like, not numbers, it will give you double, like 8.6, 8.0. If it's exact 13, so it will give you, it will not give you 13, it will give you 13.0. And that's the reason to remove that 0 is 0 and all the stuff. I'm just putting this round function again. Okay, and then if you are expert in Java, if you know the Java coding, so if you just go to the Java code, you can see that what Pega has written it to write this function. Okay, in the similar way, like, it's not that you were restricted to use only Pega's out of the box function, but you have a something, if you have any new requirement that you have it, like, for which you don't specify, you don't even have any function in Pega, so you can just basically save as this. I mean, basically create a new function as well. Most of the time, we create new functions. For example, in Saudi Arabia, the date is something different. They use Hijri calendar. So Hijri calendar, the Pega has not given it. They don't use Gregorian calendars, like us. So for them, like, to convert the date from Gregorian date to Hijri date, we have written, I mean, we normally, you can write one function and all the stuff. So that is it. Now what I'm gonna do is, so here I'll just, already the expression is ready. So now I'll copy this and I'll paste it here. That's it. I've saved this particular expression, and optionally, like, you can write some description and usage here, like what basically for what that you are trying to do it. Okay, and now just save it. And conditionally also you can do that. And you can say that, okay, if, like, if let's say the date of birth is field is blank, then I don't want to set it. Otherwise, I want to set it. So that also is possible here. Or let's say if the age is greater than 65, then only I want to calculate that particular numbers. And for example, if the age is so for example, if the age is 65, that means if he's a senior citizen, then, I want to calculate some extra, I mean, some less tax basically, like, let's say I have a FD, like, I want to open an FD, and then my age is, let's say, the 40, and like someone's age is 65, so for me the tax calculation will be different. Or for example, of course, interest rate will be different, right? I mean, for example, senior citizen, I want to give 9% of interest. So I want to calculate, I mean, I can say that if the case age is greater than, if it's greater than 65, then it will be like, I want to calculate as the total amount, like after maturity, how much amount that I'll get it, that I want to calculate with this 9% interest. But whereas But whereas like, I mean, otherwise, like, if the age is like, less than like 65, then I want to calculate the total maturity amount with this 7.5 interest, like that. And again, if it's again, we can add, let's say, if the age, like, let's say age is like, if age is less than 65, but let's say gender, like, if the, let's say if the gender is a female, then that we have to calculate like this, I mean 7.5. But if the age is less than 65, if it's a male, but for male we are giving only, let's say, 6% of interest. So based on conditionally also you can evaluate some expressions over here. Okay, so that's just for knowledge, like, we can do that as well. So already that we have saved this declare expression. So now what I'm gonna do is, so now let me just run the case. And now you can see here automatically, like, age got calculated as 0. And because why? Because the Pega is evaluating now with this, Pega is evaluating with this date, like, 2023. That means the today's date, and that is a expected outcome. Now if I'll just go to the date and now give some, okay, let's say someone's date of birth is 1989. And now if I'll save it, you can see here the age is I'll automatically calculate as 34. And now again, if I'll just reduce the age as in 1983, as per the 1983, the age is 40. And then again, if I'll go to some here, like, like that, so it's age is 44, like that. So this is how, like, you can just use that. So, declare expression basically. And another beauty, if you see, notice here, I have just created this declare expression, but I have not referred this the declare expression in any of the rule. For example, if you have noticed, like the data transform, whatever that we have written it, I mean, it will not call automatically, right? I mean, after creating this data transform, we have to refer it in either in a flow action or a checkbox. Then only the Pega will know, okay, like, I mean, I have to call this data transform. But if you see here, I have just created this declare expression, but I have not referred it any of the flow action section or like, any flow case type, nothing, right? I have not referred this anywhere. So that is another beauty of, like, declare expression, like, declarative rules basically, like, so that is what, like, declarative rules basically, these rules basically are called automatically. So if someone asks you, okay, like, what is the difference between declare rules and, like, normal, I mean, because this the same thing you can do it with the data transform also, right? I mean, the same data transform also, we can just say that, okay, if age is, and I can say that age is equals to, and the same function that I can place it over here. I mean, which is also possible. But the only thing is that these data transform rules are not automatic. Like, I mean, after creating this data transform rule, I have to specify, like, I have to go to this date of birth, and in the date of birth, I can say that, okay, on change of this, I have to refresh, like, I have to, like, this okay, on change, okay, on change of this, I have to refresh this function, and not only have to refresh it, but I have to call this data transform to calculate, date of birth, like, calculate age, data transform, I have to call it, and then inside that one, like, I have to calculate the age, like that, so that is something you have to do it. But these declare expression, these are called automatically, we don't have to be worry about, okay, will it call or not, and all those things. The Pega knows it, okay, like, okay, so what Pega does is, Pega will see, okay, like, if any of this property, you can see here, like, there's date of birth, whenever it changes, the Pega will automatically calculate the age for you. But now, for example, now again, if I'll change this, now if I'll again keep it as is, the Pega will not call that declare expression. Now if I'll just change it to, let's say, if I'll change the year from 1979 to 1980. So if I'll do that, so if I'll click somewhere else, then, Pega will call that, so now if I'll say this, and then you can see here, I mean, this Pega will, like, calculate this age based on, like, as soon as you do that, change this date of birth property, like that. And now if your expression is, let's say, the total equals to, a plus b. So now in that case, basically the Pega will calculate the total when, like, when you change this, any of the property changes. For example, let's say you set the A is equals to 2, B is equals to 2. Then automatically the Pega will calculate the as total, a total as 4. And then now again, after that, you change the value of B2 from 2 to 4. Then automatically the Pega will calculate the total as 6. Like that. So any one of these property changes, the Pega will calculate the total. That is what happens in the declare expression. So we don't have to worry about whether the total gets calculated or not properly or not, and all those things. All that we need to worry about, like giving the proper inputs to the declare expression. Like something, if I'm giving some wrong input to the Pega, wrong functions I'm using it, then we cannot blame declare expression to do that. That is our mistake, to do that. So that is the thing basically. Okay, so and that is what declare expression do. And now another conditions, no, for that we can't do that. I mean, let's say if you want to set the age, only that particular thing, you can do that for the declare expression. But if you want to show and throw an error message and all the stuff, that you cannot do it with the declare expression. So for that, you have to go with go ahead with the data transform. So in something, let's say if the age is calculated as 15, so automatically it should throw an error saying that, this loan amount is, or that particular age should not be 16 or, less than 18, whatever the error message that you want to set. So that one error, setting error messages, like, we cannot do that. So yeah, exactly. Yeah. So whatever that, expressions, like depending upon either it could be a plus b plus c, or anything, or daytime reference, anything, whatever that you want to calculate it as expression. I mean, the declare expression will be useful. And yeah, again, if you want them conditionally, if you want to set something like, that also, that it's possible here, as I have already shown, like, so something, if it's a gender, like, if it's a male, then, you want to calculate some different interest rate, like, or tax rates, basically, like, because, if it's a gender is female, then, let's say the tax slab is less than 8 lakhs, or male, like, the tax slab will be 5 lakhs, something like that. So that we can do it. But other than that, throwing an error message and all the stuff. So for that, like, we have to, so one thing, we can do that, like, after, we cannot throw the error message immediately, but after, let's say this age is get calculated using a declare expression. But let's say if I'll try to submit, let's say I've put the date of birth as, when something like this, and now as per this, the age is 18, and now if I try to continue it, then we can have the validation rule to check whether this age is greater than 18 or not. If it's not greater than 18, then we can just throw an error message and will not allow user on WhatsApp, like, to continue further. We can say that, your age is not acceptable for taking any loan and all this stuff. Yes, all the functions, like, whatever. And if you want to see all the browse everything, you can just browse it with the category. For example, if it's related to some calculations, for math is a function, or, I mean, math is a library where in which you can just choose that greater than equal to square root, and something like that again, divide, just now. So, and then, so these are the different libraries that we have it, or categories basically of different functions. So, you can just choose that, any one of them, basically. So, okay. Okay, was this your question or something else? So, yeah. Okay, okay, so the next requirement our was like, so here if I'll continue it, so now here this field also, right, I mean that loan amount, sorry, loan per year should also get calculated automatically. So now again the same thing will follow the same thing. So we'll just go to the property as loan details. I'll search for that loan details, and now go here, and then which field that we want to calculate. Of course, we want to calculate EMI per year. So EMI per year is here. So now if I do a right click and then just do a define expression, and you can see here, I'm in a page context. This time the page context, the Pega is setting it as the page list property. And the reason that is, and for the age one, so now if I do for age, sorry, not property, if I do expression. Okay, so now I can see here for this one, the age page context is empty. So the page context is basically comes into the picture, like, which property, basically, like, depends, like, which property expression that you want to calculate. For example, if it's a single value property, like, it's a top level property, directly created on this, like, not under, because this age property is not under any page group, page list, right? It's directly, we have created as a single value property. And but whereas this low EMI per year, it's not, of course, it's a single value property, but it comes under this loan details page list, like that. That is the reason to just get the entire context, like, from this EMI per loan comes and all. So the Pega automatically populates this, like, the page context, like, automatically this one, like, and the parentheses indicates basically like, page list or page group like that. So, and then just like create an open, okay, and it's very similar, like, it's the EMI per year. So the value of, so we can just say like, whatever the value of, this is EMI, okay, this is, I guess this is the property that we have. Just verify once. Yeah, so EMI is the property, and EMI, like, into 12. Okay, and now okay, so now you can see here it is not like, it is not throwing, I mean, so it's a throwing an error saying then, and if you see here that error messages is also like, very self explanatory, like, like that. So here it's saying that invalid expression or reference operation into, like, it's not permitted on type text and integer. So now if you see here EMI property, if I'll open the EMI property, I have created as a text property. And but why I'm saying is, like, so in this expression, like, I'm saying EMI into 12. So because of course a text property means the Pega will expect something in a string, like, some ABC, XYZ, something like that. So it's very hard to, like, to multiply that number. So basically we can multiply two numbers only, right? Not from Pankaj into 12, or like, something, or some string, that we cannot do that, right? So in that case, the Pega will throw an error. So now we have two options here. One, so as I already told you, right, this one, like, you don't have no option to basically change it to integer. So you have to just delete it and create a new property as a EMI and see changes as an integer. Or else another option that you have is make use of out of the box function. So in Pega, we have one more function called as toInt. Like, if you just say any functions that you want to do it, so just say at the rate, and now say it's to integer, and like this. That's it. Save it. So I mean, because I know this function name, that's why I didn't go to this like, this build and expression one. So otherwise, like, if you don't know that function name, so basically you can search it, like, let's say toInt, like, search it, like, it will, you will get that, this one toInt. This is what I've used it. So, and like that, so okay, so now I don't have to, now that, I don't have to delete that property and all these things. So like, so Pega, now that now automatically the Pega will change this EMI to integer, and it will multiply it by 12, like that. So like, I've shown you both the options. So just choose like the best options depending upon your requirement, like current scenario. So both the scenarios are open for you. Like, one is, of course, you can delete the property, and but remember to create the property with the same name, because you might have used that same property in many other places. So that should not get impacted. So, and the other one is like, you don't want to take a risk of deleting the property and all this stuff. So in the better way, like, if go ahead and just use this function like toInteger. It will automatically do that. Don't have to delete that property and all those things. So this function will take care of it, like that. So now if I just save it, and now if you run it, okay, so our meeting can end anytime. So now again, we'll join back basically. So now if it's a loan process, now if I'll continue, and let's see if it's getting calculated or not. So here, let's say if I'll enter the EMI as 5,000 rupees. So you can see here automatically 60,000 rupees getting calculated automatically. And in the similar way, if I enter 1,000, and now automatically the 12,000, it's getting calculated automatically, like that, So that is something, we have that. So 6,000 and then, or 60,000, whatever. So it's, 72,000 is the per year, and that we have it.